Hi, everyone. Welcome to our group's question and answering final report. So to start off, we're going to be talking about the answer generation portion of our project. So our overview is very similar to our initial report in that we're going to be doing some pre-processing, then doing a similarity check to find the most similar sentence, and then we're going to be categorizing the question until we get the final answer. So pre-processing, again, very similar to our initial report in that we're taking in the corpus and the questions. We're going to split the corpus into each individual sentence, and then we're also going to split the questions by the question mark. We also do that categorization there. And then finally, for both, we're going to run it through a tokenization using Spacey, and the outputs are going to be tokens. And we also do part of speech tagging and dependencies. Not pictured on the slide is also we do some regex filtering for specific cases.
So then what we did was we converted the sentences into numeric vectors using sentence transformers. We did that for both the corpus and the questions. And then we used cosine similarity to find us the sentence that matches most closely to the question. And we also, during our model selection, we found that some models perform better on one text, but other models will outperform that in a different text. So we decided to try something different and take an ensemble approach. We will keep both models and pick the sentence that has the highest cosine similarity between them. Of course, our trade-off here is the extra memory of having an additional model in our overall workflow, but the performance we saw was well worth it. So the two models we chose was the first one is Marco, which is a transformer trained on Microsoft Marco's passage ranking, which is a data set of search queries from Microsoft Bing. And the second one is Roberta, which is a transformer that's optimized for semantic textual similarity.
Cool. From there, we had to pick out either if we want to use BERT or GP2 to actually extract the correct portion, the correct answer from the most similar sentence. We tested both and we got a better result from BERT. And also BERT incorporates context on both sides of words, which is what we want. And then we had to choose the best pre-trained model selection. We tested around with a couple ones listed on the slides, but we decided the last one was the best. Again, we have that trade-off because it is the largest, but we get a better model performance. And specifically, we thought this one would be the best because this one is fine-tuned on Squad, which is trained on Wikipedia articles, which is our input for our system in this case. For the binary questions, again, we take the output from BERT and we scan this answer along with the question and mark it either as affirmative or negative. In this case, if it's going to be, for example, an A, if it has no negative words in it, then we mark it as affirmative or positive in this case. And then same thing we do for the question. If both of them match, we return yes, but if one is positive and one's negative, we return no.
And now on to question generation. We use the preprocessed corpus as mentioned in question answering. And for each sentence, we try to generate as many possible questions that we could for WH and binary. And then from that set, we scored each question and chose the top end questions with the highest scores. For WH questions, for example, we would look for the entity types to find the category of the question. For example, in this case, it's a date. And we use the dependency parsing to figure out the main verb of the entity, which is not necessarily the root verb. And if the lemmatized verb is be, then use that verb. So for example, when was the Vietnam War? Otherwise, we would check the tense of the main verb, find the noun subject from the main verb and check its plurality, and then conjugate the auxiliary verb according to the tense and plurality, and then lemmatize the main verb to generate a question form as WH, aux verb, noun subject, main verb, and direct object or prepositional object.
So for binary questions, what we do is we look for an auxiliary verb in the sentence, and then we double check that that auxiliary verb is the root. So auxiliary verbs are like is, was, are, and were. And the auxiliary verb becomes the question word for the binary question. And then we go through the children of the auxiliary verb and see if there's a subject. And the subtree of the subject becomes the question body. So in this example, we find the auxiliary verb was, and then we get the question and then the subtree of that, and that becomes a question body. And so the question here is, was the engineering skill of the Harappans remarkable, especially in building docks? So for finding the best questions, we go through each of the questions that are generated for each of the sentences. And then we need a way to sort of score this and try to find the best end questions. So what we did was we came up with a standard. So we pick around 12, the best questions had around 12 tokens and 1 to 2 named entities. And what we did was we uniformly penalized the questions that were above or below this. And so this generated an even distribution of questions, questions that had good grammar and punctuation and had a good balance between question length and complexity. So that's our project, and thanks for watching.